1. Ladies and gentlemen, very special guest tonight, Micah T. Dank. He is an author of the Esoteric realms, but that's only recently in his history. Now, this guy was born back in '83 in Oceanside, New York, and from a young age, he's been affected by the media, specifically through his father and other things, and you can read that all up here in author details. But something happened when he was getting his undergraduate degree up in SUNY Albany and then later CUNY Hunter. You got an interest in the esoteric sciences. Now, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Micah. It's a pleasure to have you. We're going to talk about your books and stuff. But first, give us a little background on how you got into the esoteric sciences, specifically, which is a big interest of mine, astrotheology.
Right. Okay. So basically, I had grown up in a very religious household, and I never really took to it. It never spoke to me. In fact, I had issues with it growing up. And I was always trying to find out because one of my best friends growing up was a born-again Christian. And I was like, well, is he right? Or my parents right? I had those thoughts, because I was looking at it the wrong way. And it like affected me like very difficult. So I'd been looking for answers. I couldn't find anything. And then I stumbled on a video from Jordan Maxwell, where he was talking about how the disciples had asked Jesus where they can meet him for Passover dinner. And he tells them, go into town. You'll see a man with a water pitcher. He says, follow him to his house. And he said that the man with the water pitcher was Aquarius. So I was like, that makes sense. Okay, I looked into it. And then within a day of seeing that video, I had moved to Boston in 2013. So about 7.5 years ago, I moved there for a new job. And the woman who I'm no longer with, I moved there with, we didn't really have much to do. So I just spent a lot of time on YouTube. We didn't know anyone yet. We were still working things out. And what ended up happening was I came across that Jordan Maxwell video. And then the next day, we have a mutual friend, Charles. He sent me a video of Santos Bonacci, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind to the point where I was like, this is it. These are the answers I was looking for. This is what I wanted to know. I have to get involved. So I spent the next year just diving into it completely, to the point where I started making connections on my own. And when I started to do that, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to, I want to write something, I want to be a part of this. I want to share this with people. So, unlike most people who write nonfiction about this, because I was considering that, all the characters discover all this astrotheology, and it's a mix. It's a mix between astrotheology. That's the main storyline for the 6 books. And also during the plot, they also uncover a whole bunch of forbidden knowledge and forbidden information that the media wouldn't want you to have. So I'm not going to get into the forbidden knowledge stuff. I'm just going to get into the astrotheology and explain it basically for people who are not familiar with it. And then I'm just going to take you on a little journey.
Okay.
And then we'll see where that goes. But basically, I've been on the circuit for 5 months. I've got 20 podcasts under my belt. I got another 25 lined up before the end of the year. And so I definitely reached out to you. I figured this was right up your alley. So you got back in touch with me. So I figured that was it. So
cool. Well, before we
I guess we can start if you're cool with that.
No, before we move forward, let's just talk about Santos, because he really piqued my interest when I was doing some of my major studies in the Yuga cycle. I came up on Santos Bonacci and watched all of his podcasts about 9 years ago. But since then, the guy has totally gone off his rocker in the last year or so. I don't know what happened to the guy, but his earlier teachings, in my opinion, are very important to what we're about to discuss. Have you been following him recently?
Yeah.
And his meltdown? Yeah. So I don't know what's going on there.
It's funny. It's funny. The Leak Project?
Yeah. Rex.
Excuse me.
Rex is my neighbor.
I've been on. What do you mean, a neighbor? Like literally?
Yeah, he lives. Yeah, we live in the same town. We ended up in the same place.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been on him 6 times.
Oh, cool.
And he says the same thing about Santos.
Yeah.
He says the same thing about Santos. And look, I'm not going to badmouth the guy because he literally gave me answers I was looking for. I'm not going to badmouth him. I'm not going to do that. I don't agree with a lot of the things, but
Yeah.
I teach it in a slightly different way.
So
I don't combine so many.
I have your June book up here, June 28th, 2020, Beneath the Veil, Into the Rabbit Hole. And so just for those listening now, if you didn't catch what Micah was saying, his book series is actually not nonfiction. It's fiction, but it's written with astrotheology embedded in it. Am I correct there, Micah?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, cool.
So the way I like to put it is the astrotheology and the hidden information that you're not supposed to know that people have been hiding, not just astrotheology, but just covert information that's been hidden from the public.
Yeah.
That's all true.
Yes.
The only thing that's fiction is the storyline.
Yeah, I got you. So you use fictional characters to tell the true story.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk us through in the next 15 minutes what you've uncovered, because I'm totally excited to hear about what your take on astrotheology is.
Okay, so the first thing that you have to know about this is there's questions in the Bible that don't make much sense if you look at them on face value, but that make sense astrotheologically, and I'll get into that. For instance, how Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. This is all astrology, and I will get to that. But basically, the way it starts off is I like to explain the 12 signs, because you need to understand what the 12 signs are to make sense of this. Now, Aries is the first sign. But I like to start at Aquarius, just because it's like January. It's the first month of our year. So I start from there. So the first sign is Aquarius, which is represented by the man. Pisces is the sign of the two fish in the water. Aries is the ram. Now in Aries, you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day, 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator, back on the way to the summer solstice, its height. In Christianity, the Passover is changed to the resurrection of the sun. So the idea in astrotheology is that the Son of God is the sun, not the S-O-N, but the S-U-N. And it talks about the 12 signs. It's the sun going through the 12 signs. So you've got the ram in Aries. It's why the Jews smear the lamb's blood on the door to protect them from the death of the firstborn son. Okay? It's also why the Jews blow the ram's horn into the sky, because Aries is the ram. So the next one is Taurus is the bull. Now you got to understand this, is that this is why these signs have stories. The Greeks and the Romans and the Egyptians all had stories as well about the planets and the gods, and Zeus and Orion and Osiris and all of that. This is the 12 signs. This is basically just like a modern day type thing, in a sense that the 12 signs are a modern day thing to decode the Bible. So basically, back in the day, you never had calendars, watches, clocks, Apple watches, smartwatches, nothing. You didn't have anything. You couldn't tell time. The only thing you could tell is the passing of the seasons. You'd have to look at the stars, and you'd have to know, okay, I need to plant now. Okay, winter's coming. That's Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. They say that. But it's important to know when that's coming. If there was ever a global catastrophe on Earth, what would happen is, where would religion fit in? If you're rebuilding society, it wouldn't. You'd have to look at the stars again and figure out when you can do shit again. At what times. So basically, Taurus is the bull, and you'd look in the sky, you'd see Taurus, and you'd go, okay, I have to put the plow on the bull, and I have to plow so that I can get the food later on in the year. More specifically in Virgo and Libra, which I'll get to very shortly. So Gemini is the twins. It's there's nothing significant that happens astrotheologically there, really. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy. Their sister was Helen of Troy, the story of Achilles. That's basically that. Cancer is the crab, and it's the sideways moving creature. It moves like this. And the reason it's the crab is because basically what happens is the sun rises a degree on its axis every single day. And then it hits June 21st, which is the summer solstice. And then for 3 straight days, it stays put. And then it drops a degree June 25th, and it keeps going down and down and down until it hits December 21st, which is the winter solstice. And then for 3 days, it stops, which is why God's son was dead for 3 days. And then it comes back to life December 25th.
Oh,
That's the day that all gods are born on.
The resurrection.
Yeah, that's the resurrection right there. So basically, that's Cancer. So Leo is the king. The sign Leo, it's the lion. It's the king of the jungle. And the ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So when the sun is actually in Leo, it's in its glory. Then Virgo is a woman holding a stalk of wheat.
That's me, Virgo.
Yes. You're Virgo?
Yeah.
Virgo is the sign. It's the woman holding the wheat stalk. So remember we said we're going to plant in Taurus and then you're gonna get stuff later?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the woman in Virgo is the wheat stalk. So you'd see Virgo, and then the virgins would go out into the fields and pick all the wheat and make the bread. There's a lot of interesting stuff in Virgo too. I'll get back to that. But Libra is the justice. It's the scales. It's the balance. Jesus is known as the just one. The reason it's justice is because it judges God's son. The scales judges God's son as he passes over the autumn equinox and goes down, down, down to his death in Sagittarius on December 21st, like I just explained it to you. Mm-hmm. So the next sign is Scorpio, which is the scorpion. And the scorpion is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like 2 lips. It's why the mafia has the kiss of death. That's where that comes from. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss to identify him. That's the metaphor that happens there. So Scorpio betrays the sun with a kiss. Then Sagittarius is the bow and the arrow, the guy with the bow and the arrow on the horse. The bow and the arrow inflict further punishment on the sun. And in fact, the arrow becomes the spear when it comes through the metaphors in the Bible. That's why Jesus was speared. That was his last punishment. And basically, then it basically sits there for 3 days, and then it rises on December 25th, and that's Capricorn. Capricorn is the goat. So you got the zodiac wheel, right? And then the sun is rising in a degree every day along the wheel. It's going up, and then it's going down, and then it's going up, and then it's going down. It starts at the bottom in Capricorn, which is the bottom of the mountain. That's why it's a goat, because the goat likes to start climbing the mountains. You ever see a goat climb along the side of a mountain before? It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. So basically, those are the 12 signs. So now that you know the 12 signs, you can see how he's called the scapegoat of Israel, which is Capricorn. He's known as the son of man. The man sign is Aquarius. He's the fisherman of men, which is Pisces, the 2 fish. And it's also how he fed the masses with the 2 fish. It's why Christians have the fish on their car, the Jesus fish. It's all Pisces. He's the Lamb of God, which is the ram in Aries. He's the Lion of Judah, or the Lion in Leo. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo, he's born of a virgin, and he's also called the bread of life. Libra, the scales of justice, he's known as the just one. He's betrayed in Scorpio with a kiss, dies in Sagittarius, and it's also why he's worshipped on the sun day. See, the Jews worship on the Saturday, which is the Saturn day, because their worship goes back to the Saturn. But the Christians, they go back to the sun worship. So you can see all those names for Jesus are basically just mentions of the zodiac.
So I have your Into the Rabbit Hole book cover up right now, and it shows that zodiacal wheel. Now, from my studies,
right? What
I've determined is that is the original science. So what you have is an original science of astrology that's coming probably from an ancient
Right.
society well before the 12,800 year catastrophe, which is the Younger Dryas. And the original science that made itself across that boundary is astrology. So what you're talking about, the 12 signs or the 12 apostles is actually
Right.
astrological science, which is being reinterpreted for the last 12,000 years. Now, do you have any information
It's
when?
more than that. It's more.
Go ahead.
It's more than 12,000. It's more than 12,000
No,
years.
no.
Have you ever heard of the Lascaux Caves in France?
What I'm saying is that since the Younger Dryas event, we've rediscovered the same science, and it's being re-explained, starting with
Right.
in Mesopotamia and so on and so forth. That they were refining what they had
Right.
already known, because places like Lascaux Cave, even Göbekli Tepe, these are all areas that are encoding this astrology or astrotheology.
Well, what they've done with the Lascaux Caves is they've carbon dated it, and it goes back about like 38.5, 40,000 years ago. Now, carbon dating for young Earth people who say that carbon dating is inaccurate, it's not entirely true. Carbon dating is actually accurate up to 50,000 years. It's just beyond that when you start to get into the millions, it gets a little dicey. But the Lascaux Caves were about 40,000 years, and there was a big expose that they did on it, where basically a woman had a laptop, and because we have the technology now, she went into these caves, and there were these animals carved all over them. And what she did was she rewound the sky. She rewound the clock back to where they were located, to 38.5 or 40,000 years, to whatever time it was. She printed it out. She put it over, and it fit exactly where it was. Like there's a carving for the bull, that's Taurus, and it belonged exactly where it was. So this is an ancient science, 40,000 years that we know of. This is the ancient science. This is the number one ancient science.
We are well aware of that. But here's the funny thing. If 38,000 years ago, which, by the way, is, I don't know if you're aware, around every 12,500 years, there is a small mass extinction event that's a magnetic excursion. The last one was pretty catastrophic. It was 12,800 years ago. But 24,000 years ago, we had another one, another magnetic excursion, which would have reset society then. And then 36,000 years ago, we had another one. So the Lascaux cave paintings are actually 3 cosmic catastrophes ago in the fourth world, according to the Mayans. And if they were that advanced at artists and at recording the astronomy at the time, where did they learn it from, and how much older does it go? Which just simply gives tons of evidence to like the Sumerian kings list that goes back hundreds of thousands of years and so on. What are your thoughts on that?
Even like the Emerald tablets, for example.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same type deal. You're familiar with the theory that the Sphinx, 12,000 is 13,000 years old, and it was facing the constellation Leo when it was built.
Absolutely.
It had a lion's face. Everything was done for this. The pyramids were done to link up to Orion's belt, you know, and nobody really knows the age. This is the kind of thing where for some reason it keeps finding its way back into society, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm saying is that every time we have a reset, every time we have a new beginning, this is the first thing they figure out, because they got to know when to hunt. They got to track the sun. They got to track the steps in the sky. The sun takes 12 steps in the sky during the day. They have to know all of this in order to basically move to the next level. So absolutely, how far back does it go? I don't really know. We have evidence of artifacts from the Egyptian times, from the age of Taurus. We have the Sphinx, which is Leo, right? And you got to remember too, 24,000 years ago, that's the great year. You know, it takes the 20, each sign is 2160 years, and then times that by 12. That's the great year. So of course, but the original thing, I don't know. I mean, it could have been how we originally figured it out. And we originally realized that it was a beautiful science, and then it was encoded in books, and then it was perverted. And then it basically, people are taking this stuff literally now. I can give you a couple of, you probably know this, but for your listeners who aren't too familiar with this, I can give you a couple of passages in the Bible that basically just show that it's hidden astrotheology.
Yeah, do it.
All right. So I'm going to start with Deuteronomy 32. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So he gave them honey from the cliffs, okay? In Cancer, there's a group of stars that are like smushed together, and it's called an asterism, and it's called the beehive cluster. So that's where you get the honey from. And as well as the olive oil. Olive oils are collected in Libra, as are the grapes and wine. I forgot to mention that you get the wheat in Virgo, and you get the grapes in September, October in Libra. That's where you get the bread and the wine. That's where you get the symbolism for Christianity. So olives are collected in Libra, as are the grapes from wine. He gave people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. Well, the butter and the milk both come from the Milky Way galaxy. It makes sense. So you have the beehive cluster in Cancer, and then next door to it, you have the Milky Way, which is the milk and the honey, right? The land of milk and honey. It's right there. He gave them lambs and goats. Lamb is a baby ram, Aries, and goat is Capricorn. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. That's Aries, and the wheat Virgo. They drank the best wine made from the juice of grapes. That's Libra. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. That's Taurus.
Okay, for our listeners, let's quick pause here. Because, so these stories, which are amazing stories, which are simply synonyms for what's happening astrologically up in the sky, right? They're stories explaining what's happening up in the heavens. Do you think, like when you were specific with the beehive and the milk, meaning the Milky Way, and honey, like we call the Milky Way now, but are these the words, like the beehive cluster, like that was only recently really named, or was it known 38,000 years ago as the same thing? Was the Milky Way known as the Milky Way then? Is that from your experience?
So from my experience, it is. As everything goes, it changes language. That's all it does. But the raw essence, the idea is the same.
So
the raw essence, the idea is the same.
That means that we had advanced communication or language 50,000 years ago, easily.
Well, you know what the pyramids are supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
The communication ports.
Yeah. So the whole idea that around 7,000 years ago, we went from Sanskrit and some squares and dashes to actually speaking is totally effing ridiculous, in my opinion.
It's nonsense. it's absolute nonsense.
And then,
because you got to remember something. Remember something.
Go ahead.
When you're talking religious, okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking religious, or to religious people, you got to remember when they tell you about carbon dating, you don't have to prove that things are millions of years old. You just have to prove that it's older than the Bible says it is, because that implication breaks the mold. You see what I'm saying? So if you're talking something that's supposedly 8,000 years ago, and then you have blatant, I mean, to me, the Sphinx is blatant.
I mean,
it makes complete sense.
I'm a geologist, and the erosion in the Sphinx enclosure, according to Robert Schoch, he kept it very modest in his interpretation. He said it was 8,000 years older than they thought, but that type of erosion could be plus or minus 5,000. So it literally, that erosional pattern on the enclosure, the square box it was dug into, in my opinion, could be 15 or 18,000 years of erosion. And that alone is 3 times the age of the Bible story. Now, here's the more important link.
Well, let me just jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, hold your thought. Hold your thought. Let me jump in real quick. The erosion on the back of the Sphinx is water weathered. It's not sand weathered.
It's water.
And the last time there was water in the area was 12,800 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, oh my God, coincidentally is the age of Leo. So the Sphinx would have been facing Leo on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, that matches up. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And then anthropologically, Homo sapien has been around for over 1.5 million years as the same exact mammal. So if we can bring our language back 30,000 years and advanced art in Lascaux Cave and advanced astronomy, then the Homo sapien that was back then 50,000 years ago was the same capability 100,000 years ago, 400,000 years ago, and even 800,000 years ago. If they had enough time...
Well, there's also the theory...
Yeah, if they had enough time, they would have developed the same advanced language, society, art, and other things. Go ahead.
Well, a couple things. Number one, that's what they say happened to Atlantis. Mm-hmm. Edgar Cayce says that they overcharged the crystals and then it blew up. They overcharged the crystals. Now, we're only now starting to understand crystal technology, that you can embed movies into it. Crystals are going to be the new microprocessors in computers because they last forever. They're durable. You only have to charge them with sunlight. It's for a bunch of different million reasons. But here's the other thing, too. When you're talking about where they were thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, there's plenty of mentions in the Bible or inferences of psychedelics. And there's some theories out there that say that psychedelics have really accelerated our ability to become self-introspective and to just sporadically, it creates neural pathways in your brain that you didn't know you had, and it could have definitely given us a push.
Yeah, I'm really down with that theory. I really am full thumbs up on that gave us the spark of intellect and curiosity to bring us where we are today. But at the same time, every 12,000 years, every 24,000 years, we have a great reset. We have a golden age. The yuga changes. We go above and below in the universe. So there's a cycle that only allows us to get so far each time, and then it all comes back down. And it's this cycle that we don't remember, and it's driving the amnesia in our species that can drive some people to frickin' insanity.
Well, I think there's people that know this, and that's why they push things like religion on there, because you don't have to think with religion. You just have to believe. You just have to believe, that everything started 8,000 years ago. That's nuts. That's crazy. But as far as it goes, what are your thoughts on civilizations in Antarctica under that have survived these kind of cataclysms?
Well, there's no evidence of anyone surviving, but I give a high percentage, like 80% or higher, that Antarctic ice is covering massive information that we need to know. And that simply from the Piri Reis map and other ice-free Antarctic maps that are only 600 years old. So that makes you grab your head and be like, what the is actually going on? And then the fact that if you study American history and world history, and you actually study the statistics on it, what is actually true in ancient history in the last 100 years, go back to 1900, is only 10, 20% factual. From 1900 to 1800, it's like 3% factual. And then after that, it's just a big fairy tale. So how the hell do we know at all what is the truth?
Right. Well, I'll tell you something right now. In the Bible, okay, Genesis 32:30. And Jacob called the place Peniel, for he saw God and his life was spared. Peniel becomes pineal over time. They knew this. You take a sagittal cut of the Egyptian brain, the Eye of Horus, right? That all in the music industry and everything, this is the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus, you take a sagittal cut of the brain, that's what it looks like. That's what the pineal gland looks like. It looks like the Eye of Horus. They knew this. This is encoded, deep encoded information, and it's amazing. Because not only is it encoded, but the Bible is borrowed from the Egyptian times, which is borrowed from the Sumerian times, and it's still such a deeply encoded book. It's crazy, the information that's in there, and people are taking it literally. People are reading it as a literal truth.
Well, they've been purposely poisoned and polluted for almost forever, and it's to keep them dumbed down, to keep their pineal gland calcified, so that they have no connection to source, to self, to God. We have no connection to the original Adama, or Adama was the original consciousness of all the original humans that could probably telepathically communicate. And then it was broken down, and that was encoded in the Bible, right? The falling of the Tower of Babel. It was literally, they're telling you that they're dumbing us down and they're dividing us, and we are no longer connecting to source. And we're just like staring to a square, and we believe any nonsense that they tell us.
Well, that's why all these psychedelics are banned. How many different people have done DMT that see the elves? You know, what are the chances that everyone sees the same thing when they're on it?
Yeah.
You know, and call it a different dimension, call it what you will. What are the chances? It's like two people having the same dream. That never happens, but yet you take DMT and then you see the same thing. You know, it's weird. DMT comes out in your brain to sleep, which gives you your dreams. And nobody has the same dreams, although there have been cases of shared dreams, but that's still like being, discussed. But you take DMT externally, the same thing, and you're all seeing the same thing. You know, you just can't absorb propaganda anymore is what happens when you take these hallucinogens. You just can't. Well, society and its rules and its laws and its nonsense.
Yeah, so immediately after several, psilocybin experiences where I was actually going in search of answers, almost like a religious experience where I'm doing this religiously seeking the truth. Psilocybin gives you the same answers, and if you speak to other people that are seeking the same knowledge, your experiences are the same. We see the same fractal universe that's repeated in infinite iterations. The purpose of life is there is no purpose because you're in this time frame. You are also in infinite other time frames. That the only real purpose in existing is compassion and love. It's not to do anything. It's to experience the experience. But the powers that be that control the mechanism are like milking us of our humanity, of our spirituality, and our power to their advantage. And we are basically their slaves for the time we're alive in this lifetime, which is sad. It is a slave planet.
It really is. It really is. And that can go back to the story of the Anunnaki mining gold and needing us, or this and that, the earliest things to explain. But yeah, it is truly sad. The psychedelics thing is so interesting. I'd always wanted to try ayahuasca, and I heard that it's incredible, like life-changing. But I heard you just puking the whole time, and that doesn't seem like something I want to get myself into. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I might be just wrong.
No, friends of mine are with the Church of Ayahuasca from Peru. They do ceremonies around the U.S. They travel in a circuit. So it's not all vomiting. Vomiting is a part of the process, just like peyote, but it doesn't have to be constant vomiting. And I recommend for anyone that wants to delve into this, start with low-dose psilocybin, work your way up to 1 gram, 5 grams, and start that experience that way. Also, DMT, if it's pure and you know where it's coming from, is very safe if you're with someone that knows how to administer it and you're sitting down. So those are my tips.
Right. Yeah. And actually, in one of in my books, my main character, he starts microdosing to cure his depression. And then he doesn't end up doing that. He ends up doing like 5 DMT, something along that line. I forget what I wrote. It's been a little while. I wrote these books 3 years ago. I have a 6-book deal. 2 of them are out right now. The 3rd one comes out December 15th. The series is called Into the Rabbit Hole, and it's got so much esoteric knowledge in it. The main thing is astrotheology, though. The main storyline driver, like the codes. It's very Dan Brownish, right?
Yeah.
It's very like Da Vinci Code-ish, and the codes are very astrotheological in nature.
Interesting.
Like I teach it through the stories.
Awesome. So we've had a little problem with your picture showing up when I go to share the screens. So we're going to lose you for a second, but not the audio. So here's Micah's first book, Into the Rabbit Hole by Micah Dank. You can get this on Amazon. $7.99 on the Kindle is a bargain. $16.95 for a hard copy in your possession. His most recent release, just in September 29th, 2020, The Sacred Stones, book 2. And then book 3 is coming out shortly. And then there's 3 more books. Also, you can follow Micah Dank on Twitter. We're going to leave you links below. He's also over on Facebook at government.aspergers. I love that. Micah Dank. Micah Dank at government.aspergers. Completely awesome. And let me just get you back up on the screen here. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Where are you at right now, Micah? Where are you talking to us from?
I'm in Long Island. I'm in Long Island, New York. And I would just suggest that everybody, who's listening, follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook. I run a group on Facebook. It's called Into the Rabbit Hole. I can explain things further. It's a lot of times I'm explaining things to people who don't really know what astrotheology is, and they kind of just sit there with their jaw down. But it's nice to have a conversation with somebody who can just throw it back. I really appreciate that. You're a smart dude. And
well, I mean,
I was going to bring out the Piri-Reis map.
Oh, yeah, it
I was
doesn't
going to bring
matter.
up the Piri-Reis map. That's why I said Antarctica.
Yeah, so you and I are studying the same stuff. It's not like we know what we're talking about. And so when you're talking, I'm like, yeah, he knows.
Right.
And so it's not new. And that's what the people need to know. This is information that's at least 40,000 years old that we are just retelling you. People who work with the tarot decks, it's the same science. You're literally, the Akashic record is in there. And when you're laying the cards down with intention, the universe is giving you the information. People don't know how simple it is. Nikola Tesla was not a scientist. He knew how to close his eyes and ask for the information, and then the universe gave it to him. And this is some of the type of
let me just jump in. That's what Einstein said. That's what Einstein said. Einstein said, I shut everything off and I clear my head, and that's when the answers come to me.
Exactly. That's when I had my download in 2012. I was searching for it for 4 years. It was just a time when it was quiet, and I was out on the porch looking up at Sirius, and all the information poured into my head, and I had just started typing. It was the most bizarre moment of my life, like a lightning bolt said, "It's a lie," and gave me all the truth. And then that's the beginning of my search. And here I am 8 years later talking to you.
Right. That's a similar thing for me. Mine came 2013. And I kind of focus mostly on, well, I sent you a list of basically everything that I write about. Do you still have that by any chance?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you want to read off for everybody what else I talk about in the books?
Oh, I don't have it up here. I don't have it up here.
All right, hold on a sec. I'll do it.
You do it. Micah Dank.
So basically, yes. Let me see here a sec. Okay, here we go. I got it. Sorry.
Nice.
So this is my books on top of astrotheology and secret information that they don't want you to know. I talk about gematria, etymology, numerology, astrology, astronomy, astrotheology, out-of-body experiences, the Akashic records, symbology, remote viewing, religious secrets, the capstones of the pyramids, mystery school channelers, near-death experiences, DMT monitoring, lucid dreaming, acoustic levitation, physics and quantum physics, psychotherapy, psychology, spirit guides, shared dreaming, and crystal technology. And in fact, as far as physics and quantum physics go, you still with me? Okay.
We're here.
As far as quantum theory goes, quantum physics goes, how old are the Hermetic texts?
Are you asking me? I don't know.
Yes, I'm sorry, yeah. You'd say they're thousands and thousands of years old, right?
Most anything that's a text, the oldest I think it can be on Earth is 6,000 to 8,000 years if it has good preservation.
Right. So I think the Hermetic texts are anywhere from 4 to 6,000 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
Or at least they go back to Hermes, who was Thoth in Egypt. So you're talking at least 5,000 years.
Yeah.
So 5,000 years ago, right? Okay. Do you know what the third Hermetic principle is?
Tell us.
It's the principle of vibration. Everything moves, nothing sits still, everything vibrates. Well, quantum theory now with M theory and string theory is only now just realizing that. Well, but it's been in the text for thousands of years.
Yeah, and people in our line of work, like what's his name, Nassim Harim, he does the Resonance Project. There's lots of people working in cymatics. This is not new science. All you need is vibration and a drum panel and some sand, and then you can start to find out about things like sacred geometry and the patterns of sound. And
right.
Stuff like this is rediscovered ancient history, which has been burned through book burnings time and time again, because for some reason those fucking elites don't want us to know about it because they love us so much.
Right. Well, the thing is too, is the interesting thing too is, you ever look at all the, so apparently, you know what, the a tuning fork, right? That apparently came out about 150 years ago. But there's clearly drawings about it. Yes. Yeah. But when it comes to the tuning forks, yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, that's what I was saying, is the tuning forks. What they did is, if you look at the Egyptians, they have these people etched in that have tuning forks in their hand. And what you could do is do something called acoustic drilling with the Sphinx and the pyramids, and everything was built in limestone. You ever see the perfectly bored holes through the limestone that nobody could see, that nobody's ever
perfect circles
that nobody could explain? Yeah, they're perfect circles cut through. Well, what you do is you get a tuning fork. You get a tuning fork that matches the resonance of the limestone.
I'm moving it right now. So and isn't this the same? The dude at Crystal Castle in Florida who built all that megalithic stuff, he was supposedly using sound.
Right. Well, I mean, they talk about it now. You can literally go to YouTube and YouTube acoustic levitation rocks. They have it on a flat plane, and then they basically just put vibrations under it, and then it just flies up in the air.
So what about
like Tinker Toys?
Let's talk about the drilling again. How do they put that perfect hole?
Right. So the perfect hole. So what you do is you need a tuning fork that is calibrated to the frequency of the limestone.
Okay.
And when it's done, you put the level on there, and you have the head come out, and you smack it. It cuts through it like butter because the frequencies are matched. So it literally just tears through the whole thing. That's how they're able to get those perfect circles, because you've got the tuning fork. It goes in, they turn it like a key, and they pull it out. There you go.
I'd like to see that in real life, to be quite honest. Yo, Micah, this has been an awesome conversation. We got to do it again. And you've got 4 more books coming out. The next one's coming out soon. Is it before the holidays? When is it?
Yeah, it's coming out December 15th.
Holy crap. Do we get a free one over here?
Yeah, I'll get you one.
All right. Go, guys, I can't implore you enough. After this conversation, Micah Dank is no joke. This guy he knows his stuff. I don't know if it just fell down from heaven into his head or he actually read some shit, but you can find Micah Dank on Facebook. Here he is on Twitter at Real Mr. Dank. And the funniest shit is on Facebook. He's at www.facebook.com/government.aspergers. Absolutely fantastic. And he's got 2 books out on Amazon you can grab now. The Sacred Stones, the most recent one. The first book in the series, Into the Rabbit Hole, Micah Dank. And it's been a freaking pleasure. You're a fun dude and a smart guy. And we're going to have you out at LeakCon if the Wu flu ever goes away. What say you?
Yeah, sounds good. I've never heard of that though. What's the deal with that?
Well, Rex and I put out the first LeakCon, which was a conference of secret information. The first edition was in 2019 at the Denver Marriott Tech Center. We had hundreds of people show up to listen to conference. Different scientists with experts in esoteric fields like cosmic catastrophe, cosmic rays, secret numbers, aliens, and just the whole gamut. LeakCon is literally the only con you want to go to. So LeakCon 2021 will be, a gathering of minds that all think the same way we do. Okay.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Final words for our guests.
I would say pick up the books. Look, you're going to be entertained. I have a degree in writing. You're going to be entertained. The stories are brilliant. I have a 6-book deal. Who has a 6-book deal? I have a 6-book deal. So get the books. Find me on Facebook and Twitter. Talk to me about it. I'm very good at responding and getting back to people.
Really? You and me, because most people like you and me, they don't respond to people. They're like jackasses. But I respond to every single comment or email.
Yes, me too.
Okay, cool.
So I think that this was a good conversation. We'll definitely do it again some other time. And keep me posted about LeakCon. I talk to Rex from time to time.
Yeah.
Still, so for sure.
Rex and I are best friends.
Go out to Denver's.
Yeah, so that's what we do. We do this stuff. Guys, check out Micah T. Dank, the author. He's got a 6-book deal. The first 2 books are out, Beneath the Veil. If you don't know about the rabbit hole and what we talk about and you want all aspects, you can get these books and really get filled in. He's only on the 3rd book. It's coming out this month. And we got 3 more to go. So as things develop, Mr. Dank will inform us. Micah, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, man.
And that's a boom to Micah